Hello and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. You're joined by your usual hosts here. We've got Ryan.
Hello.
We've got Tom.
Hello.
And we've got myself, Josh. How are we all doing? Well, we'll start with Tom first of all.
Doing alright, mate. Doing alright. I can't complain. It's Saturday morning when we are recording this, so I've been up for a little bit of time, unlike last week where I would not have been up at this time. But yeah, no, I'm pretty good. I've had a pretty busy week, and I'm set for another busy week this week coming up. But we've got a lot of gaming stuff to talk about, so I'm not going to absorb too much of the time for a change.
Fair enough. Ryan, how's your week been?
My week's been good. Met up with Tom at the beginning of the week, who delivered a care package of bits and bobs for miniature painting and crafting. And some paints for my Rex figure, which came just after recording last week. Had some time off whilst between phases of jury duty this week, so I spent a bit of time priming and then decided to take the plunge and painted. He's looking rough. I'm not gonna lie, he looks a wee bit rough, but I'm proud of a first attempt.
Yeah, exactly. It's your first crack at it, so just keep practicing. What did you paint exactly, sorry? So
I painted the Star Wars Legion's clone Commander Rex figure. So it's just a bunch of white with a little bit of black. I had some silver left over from another project. So I used that to sort of like highlight his guns.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see the I never really saw the drive to want to get better when I was doing it like 10 plus years ago, but then I'm starting to remember I didn't do all these things. I didn't prime the minis when I started painting them. I didn't do this. No, I was painting directly onto plastic, so it was like
that's one of those things that you'd never know unless someone had specifically told you, no dude, you gotta prime your minis before you paint them.
It gives you a surface to actually have the paint stick, and it comes out a lot nicer than my minis did. But yeah, I can see the drive to improve, and I've got like a sort of checklist of stuff that I need since I've had a first crack at an actual put together mini.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to giving that a try.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure you'll keep improving the more you do it. I really should just do more painting, but life and laziness finds a way.
Yeah. Speaking of your life, Josh, how is it?
Yes. Yeah, grand. I've had a good week. Gaming-wise, we had our Star Wars game, which we introduced some new characters into that, and we've settled into a new base, and we're currently in the process of infiltrating an Imperial space station. So that's going well so far. The only other thing to note is we've talked about the crossover that we're doing in September, and my mini has arrived for it.
Ooh.
So yeah, I got Locag done by Hero Forge, and I went for the pre-coloured plastic miniature just to see what that was like. So he arrived earlier this week.
So how do you think? Like, I know you've seen him. I've seen you've seen all of our minis on the images, and you've seen mine in the photos. How do you feel seeing it in person? I
think it looks better if you paint it for sure. I'm not unhappy with it though. Like I think like it looks kind of cool, and I didn't have to paint him for it. Yeah. So if like. I think certainly for people getting like a miniature for their RPG and for one reason or another they don't want to paint the miniature, it's a perfectly reasonable way to go. It is more expensive, but it didn't feel like humongously more expensive.
Yeah, well, there is the difference between getting a mini like from WizKids and painting it to look like your own character, and making your own character in the character creator and
Yeah.
seeing it come to life in miniature.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Am I right in saying that most people have said that they're getting a Hero Forge mini for the crossover?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that, to be honest, because it means they all look similar, which
Yeah,
gives my OCD a lot of good.
Yeah, I was going to say that's partly the reason why I was questioning it, but I was like, it would be interesting to see everybody in lineup in the same format.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I don't really mind either way. I think the painted Hero Forge minis look all right. The one thing I've noticed from the ones that you guys have shown me, and it could just be the picture quality that you said, the colours look a little muted on them.
Yeah, they look a little bit washed out. Yeah.
Yeah. They still look good. They're still better than having to paint it yourself if you can't be arsed or you're not particularly experienced at painting or you don't want to invest in all the stuff to actually do it. I don't think there's any supplement for painting your own character or having a painted model properly done. But I do think they're a means to an end, and they're a good means to an end, and they're decent.
I think tellingly, I don't think I would do it again.
That is understandable. I have done it twice. One for another character that I got as a birthday gift, and this one for Vic because I didn't want to have to transport them to other people to get them painted for this.
Yeah.
I would say if you are getting a Hero Forge 3D print color mini, choose colors that are a little bit darker than what you're intending, because that might help with the sort of washout you get as part of the printing process.
Yeah. The other thing I want to try from them is doing the 2D standees as well, because I think they in principle they do look neat, but again it's like I have no idea how well it looks when executed.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see what they look like.
And I know there's a few companies do 2D, those type of standees for
the acrylic 2Ds,
monsters and everything. So that again, OCD wise, it's kind of nice to have it all looking in the same sort of style.
I don't know what you're talking about, Josh. I want my monsters to be represented by shiny stones, bottle caps, and a D4.
And on the subject of monsters, actually, sorry to talk over you, Josh.
No, it's all right.
I am having an absolute nightmare trying to get minis for the crossover. I've mentioned this to you guys in the chat. I thought getting steampunk minis would be so easy. I was like, there's going to be an abundance of these things. There is not an abundance of these things. Unless you're in the US, where you can get stuff from Etsy really cheap. But over here, if you're ordering a mini off Etsy, you're paying 3 times the cost of the mini on postage. You're getting a £5 mini, and it's costing you upwards of 20 quid for posting in some instances. So I've been kind of furiously going through different retailers and different game systems, trying to find sort of appropriate steampunk minis for what I want to do with the crossover, which is proving worryingly challenging, to be fair. So I'm going to hope that I find something. I have a breakthrough in the case.
Did you try looking for STL files to get 3D printed?
I've not started looking into STL files yet, because as much as I appreciate the value of 3D printing, I don't really know anyone who's got a 3D printer that's good enough to do miniatures justice, like normal size minis. If you're 3D printing terrain or larger minis, you usually get away with it. But unless you have a very, very high quality 3D printer, on the smaller minis, it tends to kind of blur out pretty much any kind of level of detail. You just end up with sort of a silhouette of a character, which I will do if I have to, but it's really a last resort.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. Alternative, I think someone did suggest this, so I'm stealing someone else's patter, but I don't care. Get regular fantasy minis and just glue loads of watch gears and top hats to them, and then your steampunk.
Of Scott's suggestion, just to give him his credits.
Yeah.
Yes, it's nice to meet you, Sir Bugbear. Grar.
Yeah.
The thing is, were it that simple, as much as you can meme on that, and that would be great. I have a very specific idea of sort of what I want, and I'm being flexible with that because I appreciate, if you're buying minis off the shelf, you'll never get exactly what you're after.
Yeah.
I literally have sitting behind me the only mini so far I've been able to get that represents one of the things that I need, and I showed you the back of that on things, so you guys can't see it because I don't want to spoil anything.
Damn.
Curses.
Yeah, we'll get him next time, Josh.
Yeah, I'll just raid his house.
Please don't.
Oh no! Now I have to call the police.
So hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, I'll be doing a bit more investigation on that, and I'll be able to dig something up. Otherwise, there may be some rewrites in my future, or there may be some conversions, or you guys might be getting some coins and tokens.
I'm looking forward to fighting a bottle cap. Don't worry about it.
Representatives, if worst comes to worst, but hopefully it won't.
No worries. Rightio. Well, the other thing that is going on in the world of tabletop as we record this is, of course, Gen Con. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, convention in the world. For
I would say
gaming.
arguably the biggest. Yeah.
I never know if Essen's bigger. I think Essen's bigger, but Essen does toys as well. So, whereas Gen Con is specifically nerd stuff. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see the numbers pulled down from both.
I think Tom might be furiously Googling the numbers as we speak. Yeah, we've got the nod from Tom. He's muted himself so that we don't get a load of ASMR keyboard typing.
So, from my very quick Google foo, it is suggested that Gen Con sees foot traffic of 160,000, whereas Essen sees 120,000.
Not much in it.
Now this is literally a very quick Google, so take that with a pinch of salt. But that suggests that Gen Con is slightly bigger.
Right, yeah. So the biggest, according to Tom, the biggest gaming convention in the world.
This is a hill I will now die on, apparently.
Here's your flag.
Sorry.
I think also like Gen Con does. I don't know if Essen does this, but Gen Con does like Gen Con online, so you have your Twitch streams and so on for releases and things.
Yeah, which is really handy. I think they introduced. I mean, they did online coverage prior to COVID, but I think that became a necessity because of the pandemic. So it's great to see that for us who cannot get plane tickets over to the Midwest of America. Our friend Dave from Tabletop Scotland is over there currently, and I've been following him on Facebook as to his adventures. It's been a lot of coffee cups so far. One thing I did clock that he has purchased, though, is the new Dungeons & Dragons starter set. So have you guys had a chance to look at that at all?
I didn't even know there was a new one.
Yeah, so it's only really just come out this year. It's been available in Target over the United States exclusively. But it will get a worldwide release, I think it's 4th of October. Content-wise, I'm told it's pretty much identical to the existing starter set, except there's a different adventure written for it called the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle.
Yeah.
So we're no longer in Phandalin, we're in a different location, and presumably you get to actually fight a dragon rather than interact with one.
So I'm looking at the artwork for the front of the box just now. Not only is there a dragon, it's a blue dragon, but there is the acrobat and the archer from the D&D 80s cartoon on the front.
That's cool. I like that. That's
and one
nice
of the
touch.
insides of the splat pages looks to be the Cavalier, the Cowardly Cavalier, and a girl who I don't recognize from the original 80s cartoon. I've
never watched that cartoon.
I had a lot of free times in the evenings on when I was a kid, and Fox Kids was repository, should we say, for old 80s stuff.
Genuinely quite disgusted that you've never seen it, Josh.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is this the
Classic.
worst thing you've ever heard about me?
I mean, it's up there.
Wow.
It's a classic cartoon. I mean, it hasn't aged particularly well, but then again, most of the stuff from that era hasn't aged particularly well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really good.
I've got a feeling if I tried to watch it, I'd have a similar reaction I had to watching, like you say, most other 80s cartoons. And like, kid Josh probably would have loved this, but adult Josh is bored already.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
or adult Josh can't keep up. Like, because I watched like clips of old shows that I vaguely remember seeing, and it was like moving way too quickly for my ADHD riddled adult brain to keep track of.
That doesn't really bother me with them. The things I struggle with older shows is the animation. Like it's the animation quality is so variable between shows. Like I tried to rewatch, so you guys probably know, and I won't go off on too much of a tangent, but they're releasing the old X-Men cartoon is getting a reboot, right? Like they're kind of continuing it. So I went to try and actually watch the original X-Men cartoon, and it's like the animation I remember being very good for its time.
Yeah.
But now when I'm watching it, I'm like, man, this is not easy to watch. Like this is rough. I mean, it's so static in places.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like the majority of those 80s and 90s kids cartoons, they weren't made as programs. They were made as glorified commercials. Yeah. So, obviously they didn't invest an awful lot in the animation quality.
The one that always sticks out to me is the Spider-Man cartoon from that era. Radioactive Spider-Man.
Yes.
Where it was all mostly voiceover with the occasional like active shot of somebody talking.
Yeah.
Like back then I was like, these are fully realized people. These are that is a man who has been bit by a spider. I believe this.
Yes.
And now it's just like these are just still images being slid across New York Manhattan skyline.
They're not quite still, but you're not far wrong. There's not a lot of animation in it. But in its defense, the opening credit sequence is sick. So you got to give it that at least. Like that was like really early like attempts at using computer animation as well in that. That was like on the sort of level of reboot. Early computer animation.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dungeons and Dragons new starter set,
yes.
worldwide release in October. Check it out. We'll report back on it when I have a chat with Dave and see how what he thinks of it. Did you guys spot anything else from Gen Con worthy of note?
So on the subject of Dungeons and Dragons, while we're there, so Avalon Hill are showcasing a game at Gen Con called Dungeons and Dragons: The Yawning Portal. So they've teased. This has been teased before, so it's not the first time we've seen this. But it's a strategy board game set in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. The Yawning Portal, in case you don't know, is quite a famous tavern in the Forgotten Realms. It has its own set of modules as well. It's a hub of adventurers, and it doesn't. I don't have a lot of information about what the game's about, but it certainly looks very colourful. There's lots of red and yellow and green and blue pieces, and like little crystals and gems. And it looks like you have patrons of some sort. So that might be quite interesting. To see what that's like. Some of the standalone Dungeons and Dragons games are quite good. Some of them are not quite as good. There's a bit of your mileage tends to vary on them. But I'm always interested to see more D&D stuff. That's not a bad thing.
Excellent. Sorry, Ryan. Did you have something that caught your eye?
I did say before we started recording, but there was a table revealing the the Goofy movie board game, where they had the voice actors of both Max and Goofy along to play it. Nice. So just out of like sheer novelty, that kind of caught my eye. I have no idea how the game plays, but I was just like, oh, that's cool.
Who is making it?
I will get back to you on that. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. I mean, this is a step closer to my dream being realised of like a Disney Hour RPG system, which, yeah, Thomas successfully ran a game set in the DuckTales universe, so
yep, under duress.
It can be done. It wasn't done under duress. Come on.
I apologise. Under obligation. There we go.
So it is Funko Games who are doing this, obviously in association with Disney.
Pops.
It is Funko, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a gaming branch of Funko Pops.
I had no idea they did things that weren't Funko Pops.
Yeah, so it's weird actually. It kind of branched off of Funko Pops. They started releasing this is going back a while now, but they started releasing games where the playing pieces are like little Funkos.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
Characters are, and it seems to have just seems to have continued to grow.
Here we are. Until they get a Disney license. Excellent.
I mean, they've had Disney for a while, to be fair. So
with their Funko
they've had
Pops,
like all the licenses, Funko Pops.
Do you know what they don't have the license to? The Final Fantasy stuff.
Oh.
Interestingly, yes.
Yeah, I've always noticed that because I always keep an eye out for Final Fantasy Funko Pops, and they don't exist. They got Kingdom Hearts, which is sort of tangentially related, but no.
Okay,
no Final
so
Fantasy.
I wonder why that is.
What is your, out of all the cast of Final Fantasy, what is your chase one? What would make you go out and buy a Final Fantasy Funko Pop?
There's loads, to be honest. I would probably grab a Cloud or a Squall one if I could. An Advent Children Cloud would be awesome. I'd even take a Kingdom Hearts Cloud at a stretch.
I would actually say Kingdom Hearts Cloud over Advent because I'm a fucking edgelord at
Yeah, I
heart.
was gonna say Kingdom Hearts Cloud is so like late 90s, early noughties edgelord, like just weeby bullshit. Like, it's no offense, right?
No, I'm absolutely not offended that you just called my taste weeby bullshit. It's absolutely fine.
Stand by it.
No, I think for me it's a weird one, but it's probably like Locke from Final Fantasy IV.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I know who Cloud is.
Well done, buddy. Proud of you, mate. Proud of you. Did you never play the Final Fantasy games, growing up?
Never.
Wow.
To be fair, I think I'm in a similar position as Josh. I didn't play them when I was a kid. I came into them later.
Guys are monsters. Absolute savages.
I was playing Nintendo games. Well, I know that they were originally on the NES and the Super Nintendo, but I had an N64 rather than a PlayStation, and I was too busy playing Ocarina of Time and Mario 64.
I had a Mega Drive into an N64, so I'm in a similar position. But I started on Shining Force, which is close enough to count. It's a fantasy tactics game. I'm gonna count that.
Good God.
Tom
continues to look disgusted in us, but
I do.
Speaking of fantasy games, HeroQuest is getting some expansions announced.
Yeah. What's been announced for HeroQuest?
So apparently there is the Rogue Heir of Elthorn, the Frozen Horror, Kellar's Keep. Actually, no, Kellar's Keep's out already. But the apparently they're actually still making HeroQuest and making expansions for it because they have had Kellar's Keep recently. The Return of the Witch Lord is a re-release as well. I think of an old expansion from the original set.
They've also announced the Mage of the Mirror quest pack as well.
Yes,
that's another. Apparently, it's a fan favorite from the original set, which I actually thought it was new content until I looked into it. But no, it is a sort of a reprint, a re-release, which is weird because I don't remember HeroQuest having that many expansions. But
I didn't either.
I was aware of two of the expansions as a kid because I actually had, and I wish we kept hold of it, the original HeroQuest, but it would not be in good nick though. I can tell you that.
Well, I will say I'm looking at the images of the new Hero Quest system, and they look a lot better than the minis of old. Like the detail on these are actually striking. The Heir of Elithorn is a rogue class upgrade. So instead of just human fighter, dwarf, elf, and wizard, you have now got a rogue. And you've got a choice of two minis, male and female, with different card packs, or I think they're the same cards but with different art in the same box.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that touch. I get so tempted to pick it up, but I do not need more miniatures to sit unpainted.
Yeah.
No, the problem with that is I've still got Blackstone Fortress sitting gathering dust. Like I've got all the Blackstone Fortress stuff, bar one small expansion, and it just gathers dust in my cupboard because trying to get people together to play that kind of stuff, especially after COVID, kind of knocked everybody off kilter for actually doing social gatherings. It's an absolute nightmare. You know, you could maybe rope one person in, but then trying to get them like regular is a nightmare. You know, it's a luxury to have an in-person gaming group, I think, which is a shame, but it's the reality. There is the third edition of Betrayal has had a new edition as well, with the Werewolf's Journey, Blood on the Moon. So this, according to the Hasbro Pulse website, is an expansion that allows players to choose an additional character at the beginning of the game. Choose from an additional character. Sarah may look like your typical teenager, but that will all change in the most dreadful and terrifying ways as she transforms into a feral werewolf when the haunt occurs.
Hey, excellent.
So that's just what you need in Betrayal. On top of the poltergeist trying to throw you out the window, is your best mate being a werewolf.
It would add an interesting level of difficulty to the proceeding, certainly.
Yeah.
I do. I've mentioned this on previous episodes. I do like Betrayal. I have mixed feelings about it because of its production value on the earlier editions. But it is a game I have had some fun playing. I'll never forget the game of it I played where one guy just stockpiled like everything. He just seemed to get all the buffs, all the resources, and we were just sort of carrying his bags around. And then the haunt kicked off, and he turned into a vampire, and I just massacred everyone in a matter of turns. And we were like, "Well, that was a fun game. Thanks for that."
I will say I still hold the interest to play Legacy.
Yeah.
House on the Hill. Legacy Betrayal, but it's just the problem of like trying to get an organized group together who have time to play that.
Yeah.
And not turn it into like a monthly. It would be good as a monthly thing because you can just like play one copy of play a game, take your notes, confirm take notes of what's happened to your character's bloodline throughout all this nonsense.
That's the big thing with the legacy games. We were talking about this before we started recording because Risk have got a new game coming out, and we were talking about their legacy game as well. They're a great idea, and I think if you live around people that play board games, or you regularly attend a club that are involved in board games, or you have a family that are very into board games, they're fantastic. They're such a great thing. But if you're a bunch of disparate people scattered across, a country, they're not as convenient, to be fair.
No, the only way you could, feasibly play it is via Tabletop Simulator, and we all know how some of us feel about Tabletop Simulator.
Yep.
Also not entirely legitimate.
Well, no, you can buy legitimate mods for it.
On some.
On
Not
some.
on all.
On some. What you just need to do is somebody buy the physical copy, and you're morally okay. Legally, maybe not, but morally.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're playing real fast and loose there with that, but yeah, morally it's better. Legally, that's still tricky. There is actually, not to get too off topic, there is a whole debate about the legality of having PDFs for things that you own physical copies for. As long as you're not obviously distributing them and things. There is kind of the argument that is semi-legal.
Just another method of storage, but I can see how distribution would be a concern at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have one other thing to talk about from Gen Con, unless you guys have anything else. It is Cubicle 7 have announced a new RPG set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe.
Mm-hmm.
It is called Warhammer 40,000 Imperium Maledictum. And basically you're playing... Ryan, you used coined a great phrase, street level humans within the Imperium of Man in this game. I'm going to quote directly from creative director Emmett Byrne, comparing it to their previous game, Wrath and Glory. So with Wrath and Glory, you're more action-focused. You're playing archetypes and units from the tabletop. Imperium Maledictum is about being much more lower-level investigators trying to work against or within the mechanisms of the Imperium. It looks like it's going to be D100 based, so I'm assuming... I never played any of the Warhammer 40k RPGs, but I'm assuming it's going to play out similar to Warhammer Fantasy in terms of the mechanics for that, with that being D100 based as well. What are our thoughts on this?
Well, I don't really have much in the way of... I was going to say thoughts in general, but thoughts about... being a tertiary fan, all I really see are the battlefield point of view. So the idea of like talking, the idea of being a person on a planet that is under the rule of the Imperium is interesting. But it would be. I think I would be more intrigued if I knew what life was like as a member of the Imperium.
As a citizen of the Imperium, I think Tom can confirm this. Life is not good.
It's not a great society to be a part of for the most part. You're kind of under a very zealous government and threatened by, hosts of dangerous Xenos creatures and chaos, and it's just not good. It's not great. It's actually it's a really fun setting. So I have played quite a few role-playing games in the 40k universe, and I've run a couple as well. Historically, I ran some of Dark Heresy. I've played a bit of Rogue Trader, and I've dabbled with a few of the others. And there's a lot of fun to be had if you like dark settings. It's one of these. It's a weird one because as much as it's quite a dark setting, it tends to invoke quite a bit of comedy as well, because of the dark tone.
Yeah.
So they can be quite fun.
It's that whole thing that the film director Sam Raimi talks about, is that there's a very, very fine line between comedy and horror. So yeah, I can imagine like some of the utterly, if you were the actual character in that situation, the horrific moment. But as observers, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. It's good that Cubicle 7 are doing stuff with the license. So they've done like the Age of Sigmar roleplay as well, and they do the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy, which funnily enough Ryan and I are actually playing in. At the moment we're playing in. A friend of mine runs a game on Saturday nights for that, which has been mental. We've had like the most horrific 24 hours you could ever possibly have.
Yeah, like our employer got killed, then our other employer got robbed, so we couldn't get paid. Some of us almost died, and then we spent our night trying to be restful in an inn that had no less than 4 murders or accidental deaths in quick succession.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you're underselling that a little bit. So it wasn't that our second employer got robbed. It was our second employer was responsible for killing the first employer.
And she got robbed.
And she got robbed.
Yeah.
So we didn't even get paid for most of the work we did. So the guy who's running it, a friend of mine in Carlisle called Dan, he's running a bunch of the modules that exist, and he ran a very infamous one. So he ran 2 back-to-back and didn't allow like any break between it. So we had this adventure where we'd gone into this marsh and fought like a basilisk-type creature. And as Ryan said, like 2 of our employees, like one died, one was robbed. And then he put us straight into another very infamous module that's been around since like the first edition of Warhammer Fantasy called Rough Night of Three Feathers, which is basically, it's a really simple premise. You're spending the night in an inn, but there are a multitude of subplots and people pretending to be things they're not. It's very much like kind of a Murder on the Nile style situation, but in an inn. So we were just getting progressive. We were all exhausted from like our day in the marsh dealing with the basilisk and employers dying, and then we're in this inn where things just keep going wrong and keep snowballing, and we're getting more and more frustrated with all these different twists and turns that we're getting hit with. It was a lot of fun, but it was super chaotic, and I'm actually hoping whatever Dan's got in store for us tonight is a little less mentally taxing than 4 or 5 subplots on the go at once.
Yeah. I will say that I can see where the dark can coach into humor, because I honestly think we were laughing a lot during the escapades that were happening, but I think it was mostly for us trying to put on a brave face in this situation. A lot of gallows humor. Yeah,
I mean, our Saturday night game's always been a bit tongue in cheek. When I was GMing it, it was kind of a bit less serious, and then this has just been a riot. Like I can't remember if it was the last session or the session before. I couldn't breathe at one point because I was just laughing so hard at some of the ridiculous situations we were having to deal with and stories we were telling, and it's really good fun. I
honestly think I was about to die from unable to that sort of chest compression, stomach hurting, unable to get a breath in live.
Yeah. The thing is, I can't remember what we were laughing about now, so I can't even tell you the story behind it. Not that I think it would be appropriate for the podcast, even if I could.
I do. I think I remember it, and it is inappropriate for podcasts, so we'll talk about it after.
Okay.
But yeah, so to get back on track, I'm happy for Cubicle 7 to be doing some more 40k content, and we'll see what it's like when it drops.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we wrap up, obviously, we'll keep you posted about Gen Con. We're recording this on the Saturday morning, so we've got another couple of days of the convention to go. So if there are any notable announcements, we'll make sure that we talk about them in next week's episode. But I think on that note, that is all we've got time for. So as always, thank you very much for listening, and until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.